Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive on Spectrum Television, all the way from the beautiful hills of Ipiakoro in Ngotun State, Akwa Ibom. My name is Tina. Quite excited to be back on your screens, and we'll look at the trending stories in the world of sport today, starting from the local stories in the Nigerian scene. Coach Paulo of Akwa United has reignited and talked about the plans of the Akwa Ibom-based team to gain promotion to the MPF. Remember, they lost over the weekends to Stormers SC, their first loss in the second stanza of the season. The next match is against First Bank Football Club, and Paulo 4 has said the club has to win the game. We'll look at all of these and many more. Yesterday, we also had games in the ATP scene of tennis. Of course, action ongoing in Mexico, the Mexican Open in Acapulco. Alexander Zverev had to win yesterday with his daughter watching through in the stands. We'll also look at what's trending in the WTA scene as well. Venus Williams can't catch a break as the lady was beaten once again in the first round of the of a competition she participated in. We'll also look at football, where we had the holy grail of European football upon us, and some teams had to punch their tickets to the next round of the competition. Talking about Atletico Madrid, talk about Bayer Leverkusen, talk about Newcastle, and we'll look at the fixtures scheduled for today as well. We'll take just a quick breather, and when we're back, sport wrap up in full. But starting with local stories and tennis from Africa, where Nigeria's rising tennis star Mofifu Nolowa Atilola has soared to the summit of the West African Under-14 rankings after an outstanding outing at the ITF CAT Africa Junior Tennis Championship in Algeria. The 12-year-old secured the regional #1 position following a title-winning performance in the first leg of the championship, a result that also lifted her to 4th place in the overall African rankings, her highest continental standing yet. Atilola showcased remarkable composure and tactical discipline throughout the tournament. She powered through the first leg with dominant displays, combining baseline accuracy with impressive court coverage to clinch the trophy. Carrying that momentum into the second leg, she advanced to the semi-finals before finishing 4th overall, capping a week that confirmed her consistency amongst Africa's elite in her age category. Her rapid ascent is even more impressive considering she only began competing regularly on the African junior circuit last year. With her 13th birthday approaching in October, the young star remains focused on building on her recent gains. If her current trajectory continues, Atilola could soon be challenging for the top continental sport or strengthening Nigeria's presence on the African junior tennis circuit. Now to ATP scene of tennis, where in his first competitive action since his defeat in an epic Australian Open semi-final against Carlos Alcaraz, Alexander Zverev also made a sharp start to his campaign yesterday night in Acapulco. Seeking to repeat his title triumph at the ATP 500 event in 2021, Zverev dominated in a 6-2, 6-4 victory against Corentin Moutet. The top-seeded German did not allow a breakpoint, posting matching 79% marks on first serves in and first serve point won. With his 15th win in Acapulco, Zverev, who is now at 15 wins and 5 losses, moved level with Rafael Nadal with 15 wins and 2 losses for most wins at the event since he switched to hard court in 2014. He also passed David Ferrer for the second most ATP 500 wins since the series began in 2009, with his 117 victories trailing only Nadal's 121. Now onto the ATP scene, WTA scene rather, where two former Grand Slam champions competing as wild cards in the ATX Open both fell in their opening matches yesterday. Ajla Tomjanovic came from 3-1 down in the first set to defeat Venus Williams 6-4, 6-1, while Dalma Galfi came through a 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 roller coaster against Bianca Andreescu in 2 hours and 11 minutes. 4 years ago, Tomjanovic added her name to the tennis history books by becoming the last player to defeat Serena Williams before the 23-time major champion's retirement in 2022, winning their US Open third round 7-5, 6-7, 6-1. The 32-year-old Australian, who was a semi-finalist in Austin last year, had not previously faced elder sister Venus and admitted to nerves ahead of the match against a player she described as an inspiration in the sport. The result meant that there would be no intergenerational second-round meeting between Venus and number 2 seed Iva Jovic, who advanced 6-3, 6-4 over Anna Blinkova. When Jovic was born in December 2007, Venus was already a 6-time major champion and was ranked number 8 after compiling a 50 wins and 11 losses record that season. Instead, Jovic would face Tomljanovic for the first time. Her win made her one of the only 2 players to be undefeated against both Williams sisters. The other is 2019 US Open champion Andreescu, who was playing her first WTA men draw match since Tokyo last October. In January, she opted against playing the Australian swing, instead compiling a 13 wins and just 1 loss record at the ITF level, including 2 titles. Now to football stories, where the Royal Moroccan Football Federation has officially relieved Atlas Lions head coach Walid Regragui of his duties. The decision comes amid mounting pressure following Morocco's failure to secure the Africa Cup of Nations title on home soil. Expectations were high for the Atlas Lions, but the team fell short of lifting the Continental Trophy, intensifying scrutiny around the Franco-Moroccan tactician. Despite the disappointment, Regragui leaves behind a significant legacy in Moroccan football. He guided the national team to a historic semi-final finish at the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, becoming the first African nation to reach the last 4 of the global showpiece. At club level, the 48-year-old enjoyed notable success, leading Wydad Athletic Club to carve Champions League glory before taking charge of the national team. Under his stewardship, Morocco also finished as runners-up at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, further cementing his impact on the team's recent resurgence. From Casablanca to Doha, Regragui's tenure inspired a generation and elevated Moroccan football to unprecedented height. The federation is expected to announce his replacements in the coming days as preparations begin for upcoming international competitions. Now to the Champions League, where Alexander Soloth scored his first Champions League hat-trick to help Atletico Madrid defeat a resilient Club Brugge and set up a last 16 tie with either Tottenham or Liverpool. The Norway striker opened the scoring in the 23rd minute when he collected a long ball from keeper Jan Oblak and his half-volley squaring past Simeon Mignolet. However, Brugge leveled 13 minutes later when Joel Ordenes, who scored an own goal in the first leg when the two sides drew 3-3, headed level from a corner. But with a tie in the balance, United States international Johnny Cardoso thrashed home a low strike 3 minutes into the second half to put Atletico Madrid 5-4 ahead on aggregate. Solos then added gloss to the La Liga side's performance with 2 goals in the final 14 minutes at the Wanda Metropolitano to book a meeting with the Premier League opposition in the next round. And that's all the top stories we have for you this morning in the Sport Wrap-Up. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back to look at extensive analysis when it comes to all these stories and even more. Stay tuned.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you courtesy of Spectrum Television, returning with some topical issues emanating from the exciting world of sports. I am Mutaba David and I'm so delighted to return on the show this fine morning. There's a whole lot to look at this particular morning from the ongoing Niger Delta games. We'll take a look at the table, maybe the top 10, and look at how Team Akwa Ibom have fared so far. Has it been impressive? Are there areas we had to, of course, improve from? Would be, of course, a big conversation on the show. We'll also look at other, sports stories as well. The world of tennis, basketball as well, happened in the early hours of this morning. And, of course, the UEFA Champions League. One of the biggest conversation was teams who qualified to the last 16 officially yesterday after their second leg tie against their opponent. Many more matches are scheduled to take place later today in the UEFA Champions League. And we'll also get to talk about it as well on the show this fine morning. Well, Funny Tina is right here. Earlier you saw him on your screens, and we return together. We'll do justice to what's happening in the exciting world of sports. Well, good morning to you, Fun. We'll do this again.
Excited to be here, UT.
Well, let's quickly, of course, start off the conversation from the world of tennis. Particularly, it has to do with the Mexican Open, where top seed, talk about Alexander Zverev advance in Acapulco, is a big conversation right here. Well, Alexander Zverev for the Aussie Open couldn't make it to the semi-finals of it.
He was beaten at the semi-finals?
He was beaten at the semi-finals, couldn't make it to the finals rather of this particular competition. But the German international, after the Aussie Open, he's actually found himself wanted in terms of trying to make a big statement in other top-level competitions. But here he is, the Mexican Open beckons, and this is another opportunity for him to make a big statement.
Quite good for Alexander Zverev, off the back of that Aussie Open heartbreak. A very good semi-final. Wasn't just beaten in straight sets by Carlos Alcaraz, who was the eventual winner. He took Carlos Alcaraz down to the wire. He made sure he had to work for that victory. So I would say it wasn't really a bad showing by Alexander Zverev. So now it's a chance for him to rebound. He's the top seed in this particular competition in Mexico. In fact, a lot of people had to pull through because of the insecurity reports in Mexico, but a lot of them still made it. Their likes of Alexander Zverev, and now he's got his win in the first round of it. Let's see how he can continue. It's going to be about consistency. How can he maintain that momentum? Because now he's poised to win this one. Everyone would expect nothing less of a victory. Lifting the trophy for Alexander Zverev. Seeing that he's the top seeded in this particular competition. And when you look at the rest of the field, everyone is expected to meet. You'd give Alexander Zverev the advantage heading into the game. So I expect Alexander Zverev to go all the way and win it. But if he falls short of it, we still got other competitions before the end of the game. We're just still in February. February almost coming to an end now. We're getting into the thick of the action. So more ATP level competitions to come, 250, 500, and all of that. But winning this would also make sure he tries to maintain that distance with the likes of Novak Djokovic, who are in I think third position at the moment. So he's not really far behind. So winning an ATP 500 would go a long way in helping him with his ranking points.
We're looking forward to what happens, especially in this particular competition for Alexander Zverev, who also ride 2 tie breaks just yesterday to upset Kasparov. That's a very big upset rather. The Chinese star, as he's also fondly called, previously defeated Taylor Fritz in 2023 and even Daniel Medvedev last September. But the man was flawless in the 2 tie breaks as he took the match to Kasparov with an aggressive game plan, and he was able to get the better of him as well. Hugo Humbert was another, of course, a competitor right here that did well. Hugo Humbert won a battle of former champs against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the Dubai Championship. But Stefanos Tsitsipas is right here once again. Just like last year, I could recall where we compared him to, Daniel Medvedev, but fortunately not for him. He won, I think, more titles than Daniel Medvedev. But then again, men are looking forward to Stefanos Tsitsipas making a big statement, not in just some top-level competition, but even Grand Slams. Yeah, he's been used to winning 1,000 top-level Masters event, but Grand Slams has been, of course, a very big, difficult thing for him to, get it out of his hands. But this is another year. The Dubai, of course, Championship may just actually be one of those tournaments he wants to use and, of course, make a very big statement. But Stefanos Tsitsipas right here, of course, fortunately, couldn't do better against Humbert.
I think it shows the difference in quality now between Hugo Humbert and Stefano Tsitsipas. Both are former champs of this particular competition, and you would expect them to give a good show, and they did that yesterday. I think losing to Hugo Humbert is not really a bad thing now, considering the man's status is one of the best in the tennis scene, maybe not top 10 now, but still in and around the top 30 in the world, so you would expect him to give you a good run for your money. But for Stefano Tsitsipas, it's all about dusting himself now, getting ready for the next competition. We have lots of competitions in March already, and a lot of people are trying to see which one would favor them the most. So for Stefano Tsitsipas, he has just lost here, but it's all going to be about rebounding, getting to the next competition, seeing how far he can go in that particular one.
Well, let's quickly, of course, come back home and look at conversations surrounding the Niger Delta Games, as it is currently up and running in Edo State. This is the second edition of the Niger Delta Games 2026, and since the first day of it, we have been reporting about the progress of Team Akwa Ibom, what is expected of them, and how we actually see the progress from the last edition of the Niger Delta Games. But we'll be joined by a seasoned sport analyst, Akanimo Kufre, who also saw actions in the first few couple of days at the ongoing Niger Delta Games. We'll be speaking with us about the quality and how, of course, Team Akwa Ibom have fared so far in this particular tournament. Good morning to you, Mr. Akanimo Kufre. A delight to have you join us on the show this morning.
Okay, good morning, UT, and the studio. It's good to hear from you this morning.
Well, currently, of course, if you look at the Niger Delta Games table as we have it, Team Akwa Ibom are ranked number 4 with 38 medals in total. Of the 38 medals, of course, the bronze medal have actually been much than the gold medal and, of course, the silver. They've got about 17 bronze medals, 12 silver, and, of course, 9 gold medals. They are actually below Team Edo, who are top of the table, Team Delta, Team Bayelsa, before we have Team Akwa Ibom. Well, so far, are you impressed about the quality of medals Team Akwa Ibom have won in this particular competition?
Absolutely, I would say that Akwa Ibom has given up the performance that we expected, and despite the ding-dong affair between Delta and Edo State being first and second, juggling between those positions, Akwa Ibom coming up fourth is one thing that we expected. And at the end of the day, we are looking at Akwa Ibom maintaining that fourth position or coming up to third position. So I would say our athletes have lived up to the billing in this second edition of the Niger Delta Games going on in Edo State.
Of course, tournament proper, and there are also several concerns about the quality of some games. Team Akwa Ibom have not really been able to get medals out of it. Many also citing reasons of the level or lack of preparations, particularly for Team Akwa Ibom. But then again, many also asking questions when exactly we will see Team Akwa Ibom compete favorably with the likes of Team Bayelsa and Team Edo in terms of, medals, amassing medals in total. But let's quickly look at, of course, the last edition of the Niger Delta Games and make a comparative analysis as regards what we're seeing now. Have we improved from the last tournament, where it was also hosted in Edo State?
We have improved in the tournament compared to first edition, which we were the host. Looking at the performance and when we finish up, and we finished top 6, don't forget, then this time around we are on the 4th position of the medal table. That is because we had equipment for the athletes, though they went into camp late, which is still the problem that our administrators need to tackle. There is passion, there are athletes, there is facility, but the only thing now is the political power to release the funds and see the programs of the coaches taking a longer duration and transformation than what we've been having, that rush effect. So we can now see where the athletes' improvement can be harnessed. Because come to look at Delta State, look at Edo State and Bayelsa. For instance, in swimming, these guys have been in the top of their games, preparing for a long time. Although we have the scandal with an athlete from Edo State where the gold medals was ripped from the person because of a eligibility crisis. But the investment in time is very, very apt in sport. Preparation means that you are ready for an event. And a longer preparation means that you can see where to cross the T's and dot the I. So we need a longer time to prepare athletes and not to rush them just a week too. Because some of these people were actually in camp barely 3 days before departure. So this is one thing Akwa Ibom need to do. You look at the place that you can harvest these athletes, of course, schools, and that's why we give credit to what is happening in community secondary commercial school, the Biakritam, where we can always have a pool of young people from that school. Congratulations and commendation to their coach, the games master and the crew, talking about the Ifyokinum, the principal, and of course their backbone, the Deputy Speaker of Akwa Ibom State is from that community. They have always ensured that the kids in sports are up and doing. So that's why you can see them in any sport, and most of them are also at the national level, representing even the country because of consistency. So we have to make sure that all the sport, boxing, weightlifting, table tennis, we all have these people prepared at a longer time before competitions. And thanks to the administration who have just provided a handful of equipment, sporting equipment for this, and also a gym. So in the future, I'm seeing Akwa Ibom do competitively well with Edo State and Delta.
Mr. Kanimo, it's Fonitina here. Question for you. We've heard that one of the reasons why we have Team Edo, Bayelsa, and the others doing better than Akwa Ibom is because of the size, the quantity of athletes they brought to the competition. Akwa Ibom they reportedly brought lesser number of athletes to the competition. What is Akwa Ibom State doing, to ensure that we have maybe up to par, up to standard with the rest of these states? When we have Bayelsa bringing in more athletes, it means they're definitely going to have more medal haul. Is Akwa Ibom State actually doing anything to make sure that we have, the level, the quantity, the athletes we take there to raise it up a bit?
It still boils down to what I said about investment in the grassroots. If you have the Akwa Ibom State Sports Festival taking place, and then some schools and some communities are now interested in developing young athletes, you will definitely have a pool of athletes to represent in every sport, and not just concentrating on football, concentrating on one particular sport. You just look at where the passion is and then invest into that. Athletics, very good. We have a good number of coaches there, like cricket. You see that we have passion there. You invest into that sport. You have other events that you can take comparative advantage. You invest into it. We have swimming pools in Akwa Ibom. You invest into it, whole program. Ask the association, what is your program? And then where can we partner? You can now recommend sponsors where they do not have. You can now promote them to have certain events that they have, just because you want to harvest people at the grassroots. Don't forget, the Honorable Commissioner had sponsored a program where they highlight activities in the grassroots on some of the radio stations. I may not mention name here. But the actual thing is that who are those running this administration? Who are those running this sport? You go into a meeting with them and also see where you can put some input. By that way, you will now be in surplus of athletes when it comes to competition like this. And then you will be able to compete favorably with people like Delta State, Edo State, and even Bayelsa that has invested so much. Look at what the commissioner is doing in wrestling there. We are a powerhouse when it comes to weightlifting and powerlifting games. You invest so much into that, encourage young athletes, encourage the coaches in this area. Definitely, at the end of the day, you won't be found wanting. You will be having a whole handful of athletes to select from, and others will be crying that they were dropped. So in that way, Akwa Ibom can and definitely made an impact. Don't forget, the head of coaches here in Akwa Ibom did say that sport is one environment that everybody has something to offer, whether lame, whether blind, uh, everybody, well, able-bodied men, they have everything to offer as far as sports is concerned. And also, it's also a driver of economy because you are lifting these youths who are supposed to be idle or underemployed to be engaged gainfully for themselves and for the glory of the state and the nation.
Before we let you go now, because there are actually sports where, you know, major followers have actually thought that Team Akwa Ibom have done better in terms of trying to amass medals. One of such sports is weightlifting. But let's look at other sports now. Are there other sports you think Team Akwa Ibom haven't done better and they ought to improve upon, especially in other national engagement and not just the Niger Delta Games?
Athletics is one of the sport that we are renowned for. Unfortunately, you see most of our names in other states carrying the badge and the flags of other states. I think this is one thing we should address. Another sport is table tennis. A whole lot of our sons represent Cross River, Bayelsa, and even some are in Edo State competing. We need an indoor sporting facility in Akwa Ibom owned by the state where we can develop a whole lot of young talents and have individuals coming to sponsor tournaments like we have in Cross River State, talking about table tennis. Then swimming. We are a coastal state, and we have those who are born natural swimmers, but they just need the tutelage of a coach. So the swimming pool at the Uyo Township Stadium should offer that help. What was done wrong in the construction should be corrected. We have a whole lot of other facilities which is a private owned with swimming pools, but then we still need a standard swimming pool facility in maybe the International Stadium, Nest of Champions, aka Gospel Akpabio Stadium, and of course indoor sport hall there, so that we can compete favorably when it comes to volleyball, when it comes to basketball, when it comes to handball. These are places that you should identify the school children and make sure that a whole lot of them compete. Like some time ago, before we started the sports festival, the Honorable Commissioners said that their sponsorship program concerning the Rights Academy or whatever, this thing should not be mere saying. We should have a tailored program for them. There are some kids from underprivileged homes, like in other climes, sport is a leverage for them to have access to education via scholarship. So we should be tailored. We have a season administrator who is the sports commissioner. He needs to listen up. He needs to bring up the association. He needs to look at sponsors. And then we have this program in a pathway.
Okay. Thank you.
So when we have this pathway, we can now say that these are age programs from under 10, under 15, up to 20. That way we can sustain and don't also catalog the names of these people and monitor them, just like we have, sorry to mention a brand, what is done in athletics that is sponsored by a major communication brand here, Champion.
Okay.
So, you know, the brand that sponsored that, they have a tailored program. They have people calling to camp, including some of our athletes. Look at the young lady like Wang Fon. I followed her process when she was running barefoot and up to a point that she's now a national star. So this is one thing that we have to do, sustainability, maintaining the coaches, maintaining the athletes right from their primaries up to secondaries and into university. They can definitely leave, they can't leave the sports. The passion will still be there. So it's all about sustaining the passion.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have to let you go now. Thank you very much. We're just hoping that I would see improvement, especially for Team Akwa Ibom, as it has to do with sports development outside football, but even other sports as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, UT.
Thank you. Well, Fon, you've heard from Mr. Kanimoku Frey. If there is anything he's said that has been very striking, would be Akwa Ibom State having an indoor sports hall And I think we have that with, in Edo State. We've had that, I think, with the Bayelsa State. We have
that in Rivers.
Yeah, indoor sports.
I think we have 2 in Rivers.
Absolutely. Indoor sports game has to do with table tennis, karate, taekwondo, all of that. But we do not have that, and I think it's a call for concern.
Definitely. I think Pastor Umoino, the governor of Akwa Ibom State, I will not say he's really neglected football, but I think during his tenure, during the previous governors, we had more, would I say, involvement in sports from them. Pastor Umoino has not really been that governor who's really looked at sport. He's tried it, a bit. He's done the sport festival just a few months back. We talked about other events as well, but I think he can do more. The sports administrators in the states need to go to this man and show him what he needs to do, because he's probably not a sports person. He's talked about tourism and all of that as his strong point. So I think the sports administrators headed by the commissioners, everyone involved in sports, need to go to the man and tell him what they need to be done and give it to the man. Probably it would go through.
We're looking forward to, of course, having more development. He's talked about grassroots development as well in the world of sports for the betterment of the states and even at the national scene as well. But let's move away from the Niger Delta games this particular morning and quickly look at just a few stories in the world of tennis before we head straight to the basketball scene. Well, funny, that's been reported that lady who won the Dubai Championship, Jessica Pegula, will be missing the Austin Open due to a left knee injury. She recently celebrated her birthday. I think her birthday was yesterday or today. She turns 32 officially, and it is unfortunate. She's the defending champion of this particular competition, fresh off from winning the Dubai Open. She will be sitting out of this one.
It's quite disappointing to see Jessica Pegula missing out of the competition. I just wish her the very best, recover and get back in time.
Well, of course, the U.S. international is looking forward to more competition before the end of this particular year, and we hope she returns on time, just like for the mention of. But let's quickly head straight now to the world of basketball, where Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid led the 76ers to a 135 to 114 victory over the Indiana Pacers. Well, not so often we get to talk about Embiid and Tyrese Maxey playing in the same game this season. That's due to Joel Embiid inconsistency in terms of appearance. But this morning, it was the chemistry between both players that were able to get the better of the Pacers.
It shows that when these two players are fit and ready and firing for the 76ers, you definitely have an unstoppable team right there. It's left for the management of the 76ers, the whole team trying to see how they can keep both superstars fit and always ready to take on to the court. But still, I have to stand by my point that maybe they have to move on from Joel Embiid. Ever since he was brought into the side, it's really not paid dividends for them. It's really not paid dividends. And he's one of the highest earners in the NBA. When you look at the NBA structure, payment structure, Joel Embiid is in the top 5. So when you look at that, has he really given back to the 76ers? Maybe apart from brand image and all of that, shared sales and all of that, Joel Embiid has not really given back to them in terms of helping them to dominate the league. So I just want to see the 76ers do better, and it will start with Joel Embiid leaving the side.
Well, of course, many would ask questions exactly what's wrong with the Indiana Pacers, a side who were high-flying some seasons back. They are now just behind in terms of, trying to get consistent results. The Cleveland Cavaliers pulled away in the second half for a 109 to 94 points victory over the New York Knicks, while NBA best side Oklahoma City Thunder defeated the Raptors for 5th win in 6 games. Well, the Thunder side living up from where they had it, and it's just been about, slowly going about their business. Yeah, we know they've also dropped some, wins in recent times, but then again, they're still arguably by statistics the best side in the NBA this season.
4th win this morning.
45.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you look at that,
I think that's 3 games or 4 games better than the Spurs. Yesterday we talked about 41 games.
Yeah, for the Spurs. So when you look at that, the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder, clearly the best side in the NBA. It's all about maintaining that, because remember Cavaliers last season did so well in the regular season, got to the playoffs and couldn't hold their own. So for the Thunder, all they have to do now is just stay consistent, continue keeping these players fit and get to the playoffs. Then we'll talk there.
Well, the Atlanta Hawks got past the Wizards, 2 struggling sides in the NBA over the years, but the Hawks, of course, reigned supreme over the Washington Wizards. Many would say they didn't have enough Wizards this morning. It ended 119 points for the Hawks and 98 points for the Wizards. The Orlando Magic defeated the LA Lakers. In fact, I think you didn't see this coming. 110 points to 109 points. Just 1 point separated both sides in this particular game. Yes, many would always ask about Paulo Banchero. Rather, the man scored 36 whooping points for the Orlando Magic. The Magic had enough magic over the Lakers. Luka Doncic had 22 points, below par in terms of typical Luka Doncic.
Well, when you look at it, today the Lakers had both Luka Doncic and LeBron James on the court, but still lost.
Still lost, yeah.
It's very, very.
But if you're losing against, of course, Orlando Magic side, is questionable.
Well, Orlando Magic have not been so poor. They've got over 30 wins.
Yeah, we're also looking at the quality of players playing for the Orlando Magic outside Paulo Banchero.
Exactly. So I think it's very disappointing to see a team like the Lakers lose to them. But at the end of it, we see the Lakers have not been so consistent themselves. They've had lots of questionable losses over the course of the season. So it's all about. I'm sure they would make it to the playoffs. I'm very sure about that. They would make it there. But it's all about trying to stir the ship. Make sure it doesn't capsize before they get to the finals of it.
Well, the Dallas Mavericks defeated the Brooklyn Nets 123 to 114 points after both teams arrived late due to blizzard, according to report. Anthony Edwards scored 34 points as the Timberwolves defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 124 to 121 points. Well, Edwards has always been the face of the Timberwolves, and little wonder. Many would ask questions. What if he's having a trade deal to another team now? What happens to the Timberwolves side? But then again, he's been the missile of the side, and he continues with what he's been able to do. The Pelicans defeated the Golden State Warriors 113 points to 109 points, while third quarter blitz lifted the Celtic past the Phoenix Suns 97 to 81 points. This should be the poorest number of points I've seen this season. Both sides couldn't reach 100 points all back. 97 for the Celtics and 81 for the Phoenix Suns. The Bucks rolled past the Heat 108 to 117 points in that particular game as well. But we'll hit the breaks right here. When we return, we'll be talking about football stories all across the globe, with the UEFA Champions League also making big headlines about yesterday and the early hours of this morning. We'll talk more about that on the flip side. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It is Seal Sports Central right here. Let's quickly head straight to the world of football. Started off from our national team, which is the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Ahead of their two-legged friendly game against the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon, we hear the Super Falcons have arrived in the Yaounde ahead of that particular double-header friendlies. The African champions landed in Cameroon's capital as at yesterday under the tutelage of head coach Justin Madugu. They'll be looking forward to, of course, using these two-legged game as preparatory game ahead of the start of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations that is slated for next month. So expecting something very handy from the Super Falcons of Nigeria. The first leg is slated to happen on Saturday, and thereafter next week Tuesday would have the return leg. That's the second leg, still in Yaounde, Cameroon, to be very precise. We won't do much of that, but we here, away from that, still talking about national teams. The Moroccan FA have officially sacked the man Walid Radragu of his duties. Yes, many would ask questions, what exactly happened? Yes, Radragu actually led the Moroccan team to the finals of the African Cup of Nations, but it still looks like they were not satisfied enough. Maybe they wanted to win. Expectations were high for the Atlant Lions, but the team fell short of lifting the Continental Trophy, intensifying scrutiny around the Franco-Moroccan tactician. And that's one of the reasons why he's been sacked. But unfortunately, it looks like the target, he couldn't meet it, and that was winning the AFCON. Unfortunately, they made it to the finals, but they couldn't win it against the Senegalese side. But then again, many would also look at Morocco's performance. Was it bad enough to merit this particular decision?
Well, I think it's very questionable to sack a coach who was given Africa, an African country, the highest ever finish at the World Cup. Finished fourth place at the last World Cup, and now he went to the finals of the AFCON and you're sacking him. I think that there's a lot of questions to be answered by the Moroccan FA. I would like to know their thought process in sacking this man. We are here in Nigeria talking about Eric Sekuchel, giving us a 19-point, agenda, trying to become the coach for a longer period, giving us a lot of questions to fill and all of that. But Wale Regragui, who did better than him at the AFCON, has been sacked by a country. So you see different countries, different priorities. It shows that Morocco actually have an idea of what you're looking at. But the biggest thing for me would be, as you're sacking Walid, you definitely have to bring in someone who's better than him. Okay. Because if you sack a man who finished fourth at the World Cup, a man who reached the final of the AFCON, you bring someone who's not done enough.
We hear Xavi's being targeted.
Exactly, I've heard that Xavi Hernandez. But Xavi Hernandez has been linked to every job now and time again. He's been linked to Manchester United when they had no manager. Chelsea, none of them materialized. So I'm going to be keeping my fingers crossed on this particular one. But I'll still see it. Wale Regragui's sack is very surprising to me.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to recent development and more development as regards who the next coach of the Moroccan national team will be before the start of the FIFA Men's World Cup. Well, ahead of the Champions League game today, Victor Osimhen at the Galatasaray Nigerian International said he's fit and ready for the clash between Juventus and Galatasaray. The first leg ended 5-2, with Galatasaray having a 3-goal lead ahead of the second leg affair much later today. But let's quickly look at games that happened yesterday. Alexander Solo had a hat-trick as Cardoso Stunner put Atletico into the UCL last 16. Well, Ademola Lookman had assist in this particular game, and it was quite a fine win for Atletico. Recall the first leg ended 3-3, so it looked like it would be very difficult for the side, but the Spanish giant were able to scale through.
Well, I think the scoreline was a bit harsh on the Belgian team because when you look at the game, for large spells of the game, they controlled possession. They had more shots on target as well. In fact, Atletico Madrid scored with their first 2 shots on target. That was one in the first half, one in the second half. So it shows you that they were not really in control of this game. But it is what it is. When you face a big team, you have to take your chances. When you don't, because if you don't, when it comes to them, they'll definitely bury the ass. Alexander Solo, his first ever hat-trick in the Champions League. Maybe something to make him stay put at Atletico Madrid, because I hear he was about to leave in January, after Julian Alvarez and Griezmann and all the rest of them have been starting ahead of him. But let's see what happens. Maybe might just make the man stay put. For Atletico Madrid, now into the round of 16, facing the Premier League opposition, either Liverpool or Tottenham. Can they get past that opposition? Because now we're done with the playoff round. Let's see what happens in the round of 16.
Well, of course, a very tiny nation, or a tiny city rather, talk about Bordeaux and Glimt. They have been making headlines in recent times. All their games in 2026 happened in UEFA Champions League matches, as there are no league games in that particular country until next month. They were still able to get the better of Inter Milan at the San Siro Stadium. Embarrassingly, 2-1 it ended at the San Siro Stadium, and therefore Bordeaux and Glimt have advanced for the last 16, 5-2 on aggregate scoreline against the Italian giants. Are this the surprise package of this season?
Well, something that excites me is that everyone almost knew that this side would get past Inter Milan. Look at every pundit yesterday talking about Bordeaux and Glimt. Almost all of them gave Bordeaux and Glimt the chance to go through. It means they are finally acknowledging this side. I think they've been very good in Champions League. Defeated Atletico Madrid away from home, defeated Manchester City, defeated Inter Milan home and away in the playoff round. So when you look at that, you have to give kudos to them. They've done quite well. And it also shows, so I still remember when we were talking about the Nigerian league not being on par with most leagues in Europe. I always said that was the problem. Now we put them on par, we're even doing poorly. Bordeaux and Glimt showed that you don't have to follow status quo. You can be on a break and still be performing well if you've got, the necessary things in place. Congratulations to them. I'm very excited to see them in the round of 16.
A city of just 55,000 population. It shows you the intentions of Bordeaux and Glimt in the UEFA Champions League this particular season. Another team who did better was Newcastle. They swept aside Karabakh in the second leg, though it ended, of course, a close score, 3-2, but then Newcastle advanced 9-3 on aggregate scoreline, and that was quite an emphatic result for Eddie House boys. But later today we would see Juventus take on Galatasaray. Of course, we already talked about Victor Osimhen saying he's ready for the clash. Paris Saint-Germain will take on Monaco in this particular game. For that's a game to look forward to. Two French side in the French Ligue 1 are looking forward to take on themselves. Well, the first leg of this particular encounter saw quite a close score. It ended 3-2, and this is the second leg. PSG are looking forward to it at the Parc des Princes.
Well, just like I said about Atletico Madrid game, I think it's definitely going to favour the home side, which is Paris Saint-Germain. They've been the better side in the league this season. They've also been not really consistent in the Champions League. Monaco is one of our top teams, so I'd expect Paris Saint-Germain to have the upper hand in this particular one. When you've got the likes of, well, I hear Ousmane Dembele is injured and would have to pass a leg fitness test to be part of this game, but they've still got other players. We've got Vija Varaskelia, we've got Desire Doe, we've got Bradley Bacola in this particular match, so I expect them to be able to get the better of Monaco and move to the next round.
Real Madrid will take on Jose Mourinho's Benfica side at the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu to this well at 9 p.m. A 1-0 goal cushion for Real Madrid in the first leg. Our first leg was marked by racial discrimination of Vinicius Jr. Ahead of the second leg clash, it is also of importance for Álvaro Arbeloa's boys who lost in the Spanish La Liga in their last game. Can Real Madrid see off this game and advance to the last 16?
Well, very difficult game for them. When you look at the last game, they lost to Osasuna with bulk of the team. And I hear Kylian Mbappe is already out of this one. He's out for the next 3 games. So not going to be part of the game against Benfica. You look at that Real Madrid side, without Kylian Mbappe, a lot of people used to say they needed Vinicius Jr. to start functioning well. But with Vinicius Jr., they've managed to at least not been so consistent. Their last game they lost as well with Vinicius scoring. So now against Benfica, they have to find a way to score goals without Kylian Mbappe. The problem is, can Álvaro Arbeloa put this team in such a way that they will be able to do that? That's the question. Gonzalo Garcia might just start tonight. Vinicius Jr. and whoever starts on the right side. Let's see. I'm not really sure about Real Madrid, but I think they've got the advantage. It's a home game for them. They should go further in this particular time.
But we're looking forward to what happens. Before we bounce, we hear West Bromwich Albion in the English Championship have sacked their head coach Ramsey after 9 games in charge and not being able to win any of those 9 games. So next, we do not know, but we hear they are in the markets in search of a new manager. We'll draw the curtain and say thank you very much for being part of the show this morning. We'll return tomorrow, and then, of course, we'll also look at the games that is scheduled to go down much later tonight in the UEFA Champions League. Thank you for also joining the show this morning, and have a fabulous day ahead. Bye for now.